Hello, everyone. So we got another comic conference. I'm here with my friend Nerd Word Blake. Last time I said we were gonna do Green Arrow, I believe, but we changed it up and we're gonna do a Daredevil comic this time. So this is the first time on Comic Conference we're reviewing something that's not Ultimate Spider-Man. So this is of the 5-issue Man Without Fear miniseries from 1993. So Blake's gonna give his thoughts on it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. The Man Without Fear. Overall, it was pretty good. I liked everything. The art style, I didn't like as much as other comics I've read, but overall, I enjoyed the story and the characters.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because it's a retelling of Daredevil's origin, and I'm not too clear on if it's canon or not, because there's things in it that contradict... okay, let me get out of the way. I'm not a Daredevil expert. Pretty much all I've read is Frank Miller stuff, which I don't remember if I said in the beginning this is a Frank Miller story. This is like, I'm not sure if it was the last story he did, but I know it came after his initial run. But yeah, I've read his stuff and I've read a few odd issues here and there. But yeah, from what I've seen of all the other tellings of his origin, like whenever he goes after the guys that kill his dad, usually how it goes down is that he's already Daredevil. In this, it's when he's still a teenager. He has like a makeshift suit and all that. So some interesting things on this. Like I was telling you about, like how Elektra is written in this, which is not at all how she was like earlier in Miller stuff. Like she was more of a, serious ninja, assassin type character, and then here she's like schizophrenic. So, yeah, it's a very interesting take on it all. So, the first issue starts out when Matt Murdock is a kid living in Hell's Kitchen, and we see like the interesting thing with John Romita Jr.'s art is how he doesn't really seem to know how to draw teenagers, which, well, later on, whenever Matt is a teenager, he looks right. But here, when he's 12, he looks like he's 5.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, later on, whenever John Romita Jr. was on Amazing Spider-Man in the early 2000s, when Peter, was working at his old high school, the teenagers don't look like teenagers. They look like middle schoolers. So it's like he doesn't seem to... His art style is weird. I mean, like... I think it's very hit or miss with a lot of people. I like his art for the most part. I think that he draws the adult characters very well, but it's when he tries to draw kids that it's just like he can't really seem to get the height correct. Yeah. But anyway, in the first issue, we see Matt. He is a bit of a delinquent. He steals this police officer's nightstick.
An asshole, if you will.
The little shit. But yeah, he steals the nightstick and then he takes it to his dad's gym, Fogwell Gymnasium, which I always thought was kind of funny because his friend's name is Foggy and his dad's gym was Fogwell. And I was like, I think it's kind of funny that I've never seen him comment on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he sticks the nightstick in one of the lockers, which will come up later because he goes back to the same locker years later, and it's still in there, which is weird. I don't understand that, but at the same time, it's neat because this is where he gets the idea for his billy clubs, and I do like that kind of idea. But after that, we get introduced to his father, the boxer Battling Jack Murdock, who's also nicknamed Jack the Devil Murdock in this, which I wanted to comment on because in the Daredevil movie, that's what his nickname was Jack the Devil Murdock, and a lot of people think that was a change from the comics, when actually it comes from this. But we'll get to that later. But yeah, we see that his father is a washed-up boxer. His glory days are really kind of behind him.
And you can also see that he is sort of an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And he misses his wife.
Which his wife went off to become a nun, which I don't think that they don't touch on that. And like she shows up in one page, but you didn't know that was his mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, they explain that in Born Again. But yeah, so she became a nun, and Matt's father is, just kind of depressed, really, about everything. And so he starts doing work for a crime boss named the Fixer. So he does dirty work for him. In exchange, the Fixer, fixes the fights for him. So like he collects protection money from people and all that kind of thing. And so, he tells Matt, I want you to be better than I am. I don't want you to be a fighter. I want you to, do something with your head. I want you to, study and become a doctor or a lawyer, which that's always been a part of his origin.
Which in this one page where he's talking to Matt about not being like him, again, the kid looks like 7 years old, 5 years old, whatever. And when I first read this, I didn't know that he was like 12. So I was like, why are you telling him this when he's this young? Yeah,
it's really, the proportions are just off. And after that, though, we get the page where he hits Matt because Matt tells him about how he, fought back against one of the bullies, and his dad, loses his temper and smacks him.
And I thought that was really weird because I don't ever recall ever hearing anything about his dad ever being, abusive or physical in any way.
I'm pretty sure this is the only thing that's ever been in, because it certainly has never been in, it wasn't in the movie, it wasn't in the Netflix series. I've never seen it in any other take on the origin. I think that's exclusive to this. And it really, I don't know how to feel about it, because it's set up here that it's part of what sets Matt on the path to becoming, a lawyer and all that, where he says, if even Dad could be wrong, then anybody could do wrong things. And the only way to stop people from being bad is to make rules, to make laws. And it says that, somewhere in a long and lonely night, the boy's course is set. So that's part of what puts him on the path to becoming a crime fighter. But still, just his dad hitting him
Which something I want to say is in the panel, you can't really tell if it's either a punch or just a slap, which kind of also bothers me. Yeah. So you don't know if he just straight just punched him right in the face or just gave him a light slap. You don't know. Which I, like I said, I don't really like that much.
It's odd. It just leaves a bad taste in your mouth, really. Because, otherwise, his dad has always been more of a likable guy. And there's just this one little moment, it's I said a long time ago that we were going to do a review for the anime Erased on Blake's channel, which we already did a review for Kill la Kill. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. Erased, oh boy. Oh boy, that panel right there, nothing but that. Jesus Christ. Oh, yeah, we're that's gonna be an interesting one when we get to that. I have never genuinely cried at an anime before, but god damn it, did that series? I see clips from that and it gets to me still. There'll be time for that later, though.
I've watched it 3 times, and all 3 times it got to me. So
it's a good show. Go check it out. Okay, off of that tangent, back to Blind Lawyer Man. After that, we see Matt, how he's doing what his dad told him to and study and all that, and he stays inside, and he never comes out to play with the other kids. He's always studying and always reading a book or something. So the other kids start calling him Daredevil mockingly, which also an old video I did talking about Deku from My Hero Academia. I was talking about different superheroes I think that he pulls inspiration from. One of them was Daredevil because of this concept of taking the name that bullies called him and then making that his hero name. Probably, I feel like it's probably a coincidence. I know the guy that created that series is a huge fan of American comics, which, is where a lot of the inspiration for it comes from. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did get the idea from Daredevil.
Which something I want to say about him being called Daredevil, when I first read it, I didn't really understand why that was so hurtful, but then I realized that it was sarcasm. Mm-hmm. But then one thing I like underneath it shows him training in the gym after getting bullied. Yeah, just to burn off some steam and all that. And we start to see Stick taking an interest in him, and that'll come up in a little bit. But
Right after this is where we get the big moment where he pushes a blind guy, ironically, out of the way of an oncoming truck, which is carrying some chemicals. The chemicals spill out and they splash in his eyes.
Yeah.
And that's what blinds him and gives him his super senses. And we get the page where he's being rushed to the hospital, and we see how the powers are developing. Like, he can sense everything. He has no idea what's going on because suddenly he can feel everything.
Yeah. Which I thought at first it was referring to him feeling like a bunch of pain. I didn't know that it meant all of his senses because I just thought he lost his sight.
Yeah. It's like he can hear everything. He can smell food digesting inside of people. Yeah. He has no control over himself, which is one of the things that I liked in the Daredevil movie, which I'm gonna have to do like a video on that because I like the Daredevil movie. The director's cut, not the theatrical cut. Theatrical cut is a dumpster fire because there's some bad stuff, and there's like a lot of bad moments in that movie. And the problem with the theatrical cut is that it's all the bad stuff with not much backing it up. It's just action scene, action scene, action scene, and it just is like they're fighting in a park, and it's like, what? But then in the director's cut, there's actual weight behind it. You actually get stuff of Matt Murdock being a lawyer, and he's investigating a murder case, and it leads into the Kingpin. And I think that, the Netflix series is a much better adaptation of Daredevil, but I think the movie has a lot of merit to it as well, so I really want to talk about that one of these days. How did I get into this again? Let's get back to the comic. The tangents are part of the fun of these. Anyway, after that whole thing, we get the aftermath of it when he's, just laying in the hospital. And that's whenever I remember how I got on the tangent about the movie. Sorry for the people listening. I'm stupid. Not working off a script. In the movie, there's the scene where his superhuman senses are coming to him when he's in the hospital, and he can just hear everything. He hears the IV drip. He hears cars out in the street. He hears a bell tolling, all this stuff. He's just freaking out, and he's he's like crawling around on the floor. He's trying to get away from everything, and he sees the truck coming at him. And I thought that was really cool. And then when the bell chimes, that's when it all starts to become a little bit more clear, the way that those sound waves go. So yeah, that was an example I was gonna get on about stuff I like from the movie, is little bits like that. Anyway, we get the scene where his mom shows up, and she tells him that she knows what's going on with him, which I'm not really sure how it is that she knows. Again, I'm not a Daredevil expert, but yeah, she just tells him to keep it a secret and all that. And, he feels her necklace and all that metal. That's set up for Born Again and all that, which this is a prequel to, kind of. Don't know if it's in continuity. But anyway, and then after he's out of the hospital, we see him, that he can just hear everything in his neighborhood. He can hear cats fighting, several blocks over. He hears his dad talking with these guys who are threatening him, saying, if you sue us, then, we know what's going on with you with the Fixer and all that. And so now he knows his dad is, involved in all the criminal stuff. So we just see his frustration with his whole situation and all that. And that's when Stick finally comes in and, introduces himself to him and starts teaching him how to use his senses.
Which, while reading this, I saw that Stick had a different design on it, which turned me off. But you said when we were talking about it, you think that was to lend to his mysteriousness?
Yeah, how he's all shady. He he's kind of all fuzzy looking in the first few panels where we see him, and then he looks normal when he's training Matt. And I think it's also a thematic thing, because you see the background is all fuzzy looking too. It's how Matt has no direction in his life right now. He has no control over these abilities. He's blind. He doesn't know what to do with himself. And then Stick comes in, and he starts to bring things into focus, and that's whenever, he starts to come more into focus. So I think that was the idea there with that. So then we see him training with Stick, and he's learning how to use his senses properly. We see him training with a bow and arrow, which is a callback to an issue from Frank Miller's initial run on the series when Stick first showed up, where Matt he had to train with him again because he'd lost his sonar, so Stick was helping him to get it back, and it involved the training they initially went through with the bow and arrow and all that, which is also neat because that's the next series we're going to review is a Green Arrow comic, so it's kind of funny how that works out, but so we see his training as it's going on. We see him starting to... Oh, wait, we got a panel there where Stick's all shady looking again. I don't know. With that whole
how
design.
Old is he here? Do you know?
I think he's the same age. I think he's still 12.
He looks slightly older, is why I'm mentioning it.
I think that some time passes because I think he's a little bit older. When we got this double page spread when they're jumping across the rooftops, I think that like a period of a couple of years passes over the course of this as he's learning how to control his abilities, and we see his dad. Is being told by the Fixer to throw a fight, and he's gonna do it, and then he do they show it in here?
Where he's like...
No, they I don't think they make it. He knows Matt is in the crowd, so he doesn't want to throw the fight because of that.
I think he mentioned it somewhere.
Yeah, that he knew he was there. Because I think in other versions of it, or that might have just been in the movie, where like he's telling his dad, come on, Dad, get up, so he doesn't want to let Matt down. So he gets back up and he goes ahead and he wins the fight, and then they kill him. Which I think this is the first time that his death was shown to be as brutal, where he gets beaten to death and then shot. Because other versions of it, it's always he just gets shot when he's leaving the building, and then this was used in the movie. Where he was getting beaten to death in the alleyway. I think it was in the Netflix series too. I think in the Netflix series, the way it goes down is just that Matt's waiting for him, and then he can hear the police sirens, and he runs down because he's not in the crowd in the show when the fight's going down. He's at home listening to it on the radio. I think it's been a while since I've watched it, but then like he hears like the sirens and he runs out and sees his dad lying dead in the alley. But yeah, that's the end of the first issue. And then we get into the next issue where we see on the cover, we've got, just telling you Elektra is going to show up in this. And also, something I didn't comment on before is how we see like the little Spectre-like forms of Daredevil on all the covers. I thought that was kind of a neat thing. So in the next issue, we see Matt just hunting down everybody that was involved in his father's murder. So he finds two of the Fixer's men when they're drunk, and he lures them into an alley, and then just beats the absolute shit out of them.
Which, to me, him beating the crap out of them lend to, I guess, to me, Daredevil's, like, moral code,
Mm-hmm. He's not going to kill him.
Yeah.
But he's going to leave him messed up.
Yeah.
They're lying in like, pools of blood there.
Which, I mean, I can completely see how his origins affected, like, later on with his character. Whereas with other heroes, I've seen that they wouldn't go to this length,
Yeah. He's a darker Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Is really, that's the way I would describe his character. Yeah. So then after that, we see him track down two more of the Fixer's guys. One of which is named Slade. Not that Slade. This Slade. Who is an irrelevant character outside of the story as far as I know. But yeah, so he, shuts the lights off, and then he beats the one dude in the hat to a bloody pulp.
Now, something I want to mention is this reminded me of the scene in the first Spider-Man movie where he's in the boxing ring.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and he's... Hey, I didn't sign up for a cage match.
That's just the look of him and how it's like looks.
Yeah, it does. It looks like the first suit that he had in the first movie. I never actually thought of that. How about that? You're going nowhere. I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of pain time. Gets kicked right in the knee. Bone cracks right out the other side. Oh yeah, it's pain time. So yeah, he beats the shit out of these two dudes. He beat the shit out of the other two dudes. And now the Fixer shows up, sees him, and he takes off, gets in his car. Matt chases him along the rooftops, lands on top of his car, makes him crash, and he chases him down into the subway, which this is one of the big things where I said that this cannot fit in the regular, at least this scene can't fit, because this was taken from the first issue of Daredevil, where he's already in his costume, he's already Daredevil, he's an adult, not a teenager, and he chases down the Fixer. It happens exactly like this in the issue number 1, where he chases him into a subway, and he has a heart attack in the subway, which this was, again, referenced in the movie, where he chases a guy into a subway station. But yeah, so we get this a little bit. So now there's one more guy that he's got to deal with. He finds him in a brothel, and he goes to attack him and all that, and then all the women in there, like, they're jumping at him and trying to stop him, and then in the struggle he ends up knocking one of them out of a window. And he's like, oh no, this just got real. Okay, oh no, I just killed somebody. Oh shit. So he takes off.
How is he freaking out about killing somebody, though? He just popped a dude's leg.
Because she was innocent.
Yeah. I see why.
Yeah, so it's like, it was just a prank, bro. It wasn't supposed to be like this. So he takes off, and he goes to find Stick, because, he's scared and he's freaking out, but, Stick is like, yeah, you're useless to me now, bye-bye. And so he just disappears. And so we get the little bit where Stick is talking with Stone, and
what does he look like?
I'll pull up a picture. I'll show you a picture, and then I'll pull it up on the actual video. So I'll go do that real quick. So then we jump ahead a year later. That's what it says. So he wasn't 15. I was thinking he was 15, but if it's a year later, he must have been like 17 when all that went down. So now, because he's in college now. So we get introduced to Foggy here, who has always been his law partner, his best friend. We see he's getting bullied by these rich guys and all that, and so Matt's like, "Oh, don't you worry, I'll take care of that." And so he kidnaps one of them, strips him down, hog ties him out in the snow, and is all like, "You're gonna leave Foggy Nelson alone. You got me?" As like, okay, Foggy, I think your friend might be a psychopath. Just, I think maybe if we didn't know who Matt Murdock was, that wouldn't look very good.
And I love the panel where he's like, "I'm sure there's no reason for it. Bullies never need a reason," and it just shows him just staring at something. He looks insane in this panel, which I love.
Really, if you don't know Daredevil the superhero, this could be about a guy who's got some mental problems, which he maybe kind of does. I don't know. He jumps around in a devil costume. That's fun superhero stuff, so who cares? Anyway, I remember I presented the idea to somebody once when we were in high school. I told them about Daredevil. I was like, he dresses as Satan, and I had them addresses as Satan. I was like, oh, okay. Like he dresses as Satan and he beats the crap out of criminals, and then they went and looked into him with that alone, and it became one of their favorite characters. I'm like, all right then.
And then the next page, it shows Kathy talking to her friend,
Character who never comes up again.
And her friend says, "What a creep." And then Cassie's like, "Oh, he's not so bad. He's just really intense." Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Oh, intense. Yeah. But after that, we see Matt in his room where he's, bunking with Foggy. And we see something that I like was that Foggy is watching Star Trek, or he fell asleep watching it because he see the space, the final frontier. And I'm a big fan of Star Trek, so when I saw that, I was like, that's neat. I think that's always been a thing, is that Foggy is a Star Trek fan, because I remember like a few panels where you see in his apartment, like there's a picture of Spock up on his wall, so yeah that's kind of neat. But we see that like Matt thinks it's the TV that's bothering him, so he throws a boot to unplug it, and that doesn't help him. He can't fall asleep, so he's like, I'm just gonna go for a run. So we see him like out jogging in what's the starts of his first black costume. So I thought that was kind of interesting. He already had that. But yeah, he's running across the rooftops and all that, trying to clear his head, and then that's when he meets Elektra.
So, something I want to mention about this Elektra thing right here, them meeting her for the first time, why chase her down? It's really creepy if you really want to sit down and think about it.
Because she's hot, so I want to get me some of that.
How does he know he's blind?
He can sense everything. Everything.
It really did bother me, though. I just want to throw that out there.
Which almost gets him into trouble with the cops chasing her down, though.
Wouldn't anybody else be arrested for this, though?
He almost does get arrested. But yeah. And then, like, he has, whenever this whole thing concludes, he has flashbacks to when he accidentally got that one girl killed, or as he thought she was killed, which, like I was telling you about, I'm pretty sure that's Typhoid Mary, who was a character later on. But yeah, he remembers that, and he's like, yeah, I better calm down, because it's going to lead to something else bad happening. So he's trying to fight that side of himself, the crime fighter, and the adventurous side of him. But yeah, we get the setup for him and Elektra, which the next day she shows up in a car and he hops in the car with her. And
why?
Why did she know that was him? How did he know that was... Well, I mean, I know how he knew that was her, but how did she know that was him? Why was she just, like, ready for it? Why does he just hop straight in? Why does she drive like a maniac? Why did they drive to the side of a hill? Why does she jump into freezing water? Elektra is crazy in this. Oh my god.
I would even say he's crazier for even being with her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And something I thought about while reading this is why the fuck he got in the car with her after she made him almost get in trouble with the police. Why?
It's like this has evolved or devolved into us questioning Matt Murdock's sanity. But yeah, no, like, actually what I'm thinking of now is in part 4 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, there's this character named Koichi. You've only seen like part 1, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, part 4, there's this character called Koichi, and we're going to talk about JoJo one day. Don't you worry. I did enough JoJo references last video that we're going to have to talk about that one day. But yeah, and there's this I'm blanking on her name, but he has a love interest who is a crazy bitch, who looks like Elektra in this, actually. It's funny enough, is what I was thinking of. But she kidnaps him. And I don't know if he got Stockholm Syndrome or what, but after that episode, they just pretend it never happened. And it's like they're just like... I can't wait to talk about JoJo. I really can't. But anyway, so we get into issue 3, which picks up right where the last one left off, with Elektra plunging into icy water and Matt jumping after her. Because... Well, he jumps after her because, he's a heroic guy. He's not going to let her just freeze to death. Why did she jump into the water? Because she's crazy. She is actually out of her mind, as we find out as the story goes on.
And then he sneaks in to her home.
Yeah, he does that he does that immediately after.
Why?
He goes and breaks into this rich girl's house with all this armed security, and then he gets shot.
I have so many questions on why he does these things. Love makes you, and love's a dangerous thing, as a lot of people say. Then he kicks the dog.
He kicks
in the
the
neck.
Dog. And then he kicks a guy out a window, and somehow this guy survives this fall, which I don't know how the hell that happened, because not only does he fall from here, he falls through here, lands on a piano.
And then Elektra just like,
because she's crazy. I mean, yeah, of course. And yeah, they start shooting at him, and yeah, he gets shot. He has to head home with a gunshot wound.
Which I can tell by Elektra's reaction that this is just like a normal occurrence. Just look at
she's into him now. Like which it's implied that they fuck like animals when he gets back to back to
It's not. He got shot in the arm, and it shows he's bleeding quite a bit.
He's bleeding profusely.
And then they just...
And then he wraps it up, and then she shows up. She's already there. She's already there. And then Foggy shows up, and Foggy's like, "Hey, Matt, can you let me in?" He's like, "Oh, no, I can't. Just give me a minute."
How did she know which room he was in? There's some stalking going on.
Well, I mean, like I've said a million times, she's crazy in this. So yeah, we see from the condition of the room, they banged with a capital BANG, and then she goes out and then she kills a bunch of people, criminals. But she still kills a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Because she's a crazy person who has voices in her head. What the hell is this?
Which I do kind of like, personally, that it shows that she's, like, schizophrenic.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting idea, but it doesn't match up with Elektra as I know her, as Frank Miller wrote her. I don't know, maybe I'm forgetting something. I need to go back and reread his run, but, like... The way I remember her in his run is she's just a straightforward, like, serious ninja assassin. Yeah. And then in this, she is, a
badass.
Well, I mean, she was always a badass, but, like, a crazy badass.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
But, yeah, so she kills these guys and one woman.
Which I was questioning.
Because it kind of looks like a dude a little bit. But yeah, like pops her nose and bone in their brain, and Jesus, and then she writes "I love New York" in their blood,
which I loved, honestly.
It's very entertaining. This whole thing, but yeah, so we see that he and Elektra, Daredevil and Elektra, I mean, they spend a lot of time together, and then Stick shows up and he's all like, "Hey, I know I kind of abandoned you when you needed me most, but stay away from her because she's a crazy bitch." And he's like, "No."
Why would he listen to Stick if Stick abandoned him?
Exactly. Yeah, he's not going to listen to him. So yeah, and then we get more of him and Elektra until we find out that her father was killed, and so now. She leaves him, and that's when she goes off and becomes an assassin. So then after that, we cut to New York, and we get introduced to the Kingpin. And we see, this guy with the eye patch here. This is the guy who runs crime and all that. And he's like, we're going to do things the old-fashioned way. We're not going to make no-no movies. What the fuck is wrong with you people? And Kingpin comes in and breaks his neck and is like, Big Boy Willie is going to make some certain type of films with a word I can't say. So they kidnap a bunch of kids. And that's what Kingpin's scheme is. Oh my god. Yeah, that's so Kingpin's scheme.
It's so fucked up.
You remember when he was a Spider-Man villain and he's just like, I'm going to take over the crime rackets. And all crime will obey me. And in Daredevil, it's like, no word.
It's so fucked up.
My video is going to get flagged just for those words alone. The actual thing itself is not in the video. But me using the word, my video is going to get flagged. So we'll see what happens. we'll see how that goes down. I'm probably going to have to take all my videos off the channel anyway because of the whole FTC bullshit. Which, if you guys haven't been following that, that's a clusterfuck. Mm-hmm. But I'm as a precaution, I've been downloading all my old videos. I'm probably gonna have to take them all down and put them on another site. But we'll see how things work out. That's for another time. Anyway, we're gonna proceed, as if the world is not imploding. Anyway.
Now, one thing do you know the guy's name?
No, I do not. I don't think he's really important. I think he's just part of this story, as far as I know.
Honestly, I was hoping he was going to be kind of like a big deal, because I like his stance on no
word.
I was like, oh, dude,
he's a criminal with a heart of gold.
It's just going to be this big bad villain who's just into the drugs and stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you have Kingpin, who I was hoping the dude he killed would be a more complex character. Kingpin, it just gives you an obvious...
It's just like, boom.
It's just an obvious reason to hate him. I was hoping they'd have a kind of a complex... a complex character to hate.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. And Kingpin's got his Rose.
Yeah.
Which, I feel like his son used the name The Rose. So I feel like that's like a reference to that. So we go into issue 4, and we see erased flashbacks intensify. Again, we'll get to that later. Anyway, so we pick up again with Kingpin, who's, completely established himself as Kingpin of crime. He's got his henchman here with the sunglasses. It reminds me of the henchman from Thunderball, one of the James Bond movies. His name is Vargas. Because there's one shot from the movie of him. It just you see what I'm talking about. Like, I'll put the images up on the screen, but yeah, that's just what he makes me think of. I don't know if he was an intentional reference to that. But yeah, he's pretty much an exclusive character to this, to my knowledge, because, he gets shot right through the head at the end, but we'll get to that in a second. Anyway, so we also see that Matt has, fully become a lawyer now, and he works for somebody else, but he's given an assignment, to go back to New York. So he goes to New York, and he starts walking down, his old neighborhood, Hell's Kitchen. And he ends up going back to the playground at his school. And then there's a bunch of thugs there, though. And then they try to rob him, but then he starts beating the crap out of them. And we get the bit where he breaks his cane, which you think when you first see that, oh yeah, that's going to be like the billy clubs. No, he just breaks his cane for no reason, because he never uses them in this fight at all. So why did he do that? This is a good story. We're not saying that it's a crap story because of little things like this, but little things like this are kind of stupid. There's
just plot holes here and there. That's all. Other than that, it's a great story.
Yeah, it's just weird things that you got to sit and question. Okay, you have the nightstick. That's the setup for the billy clubs, but then you have that bit there where he breaks his cane, and then he just
tosses it,
tosses him aside. And
which, honestly, the first time reading it, I didn't even realize that was his cane that he broke.
Yeah,
I didn't really pay attention to it until now. It's why?
It's just weird. So anyway, he beats the crap out of them, and then he keeps walking, and then he comes across Fogwell's gym, which has been closed down. It's boarded up, but he still takes the boards down and all that. He goes in there, and he finds this girl named Mickey, who claims to be an orphan, but he can tell that she's lying both about being an orphan and about her name being Mickey.
Which I do want to mention something about Mickey. I kind of like her bravery in this scene where she uses her slingshot, whereas most normal kids would, run or call the police, which is the smart thing.
Yeah.
But it does show that she is pretty brave to try to put up a fight with the intruder.
Mm-hmm. And so Matt starts he starts coming here every day and starts training in here, and she trains with him. And here's where we get the little bit where you find out that one of his dad's nicknames was Jack the Devil Murdoch. So yeah, that's the whole thing I was talking about, how the movie did that as a reference to this. Because the movie dropped the idea of it being a bully name. It just went fully with it being a tribute to his dad. But you get both in this, both ideas. Also, as he's back in New York, he ends up seeing Foggy again. And so he and Foggy start, working together on... Foggy starts helping him out with the case he's working on while he's there. But then, shortly after that, Mickey ends up getting kidnapped by these drug addicts who are working for Kingpin's henchmen. He's go get me someone to use for
a film.
Oh no films. So yeah, they go and they kidnap her, and Matt he's gonna go back to Boston because his boss is telling him to head back. But he's gonna say goodbye to Mickey first. But then when he goes to the gym, he finds her hat, and he realizes she wouldn't just leave it laying around, so something's wrong. So he goes and investigates that, finds out that her parents are being, told to, pay some ransom money. So, and we get this really cool shot of him standing on the building in the rain. That's one of my favorite images out of any Daredevil comic, just this one page right here.
That and the two spread shot of him and Stick running across the rooftop.
Yep. And so, he goes back to the gym. He takes the billy club, or the nightstick, and he starts, following Mickey's dad to find out, where he's going to drop the money off to find the people who kidnapped her. So then the drug addict guy, he takes the money, but he gets killed by Kingpin's henchman.
Now, something I just want to point out is, why would you let your mouth be open while somebody's brains are getting...
because it says he tastes he tastes it. It's I guess his mouth just opened out of shock.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, wasn't ready for that. But yeah, so the guy hears him, and so, Matt takes off out of there. And then we see where Mickey's been taken to, and then Matt is able to find them. All the kids that have been kidnapped here, they start singing, which you were asking about. What was that? I guess it's just like a thing to try to,
progress the story.
Yeah, get their confidence up, and it helps him find them because of the sound of it. And we see here where he has the black costume that's famous from the Netflix series, and that's which actually, this is not where that originated from. This comes from the Incredible Hulk TV series. There was a TV movie of it after the show ended, which guest starred Daredevil, because Bruce Banner, David Banner as he's called in the show, is believed, like, he's put on trial because they think that he's involved with something that was going on with these criminals, and Matt Murdock is appointed as his lawyer. And so that's how Daredevil's involved in there, and he has this suit in that TV movie because they felt that his red costume was too demonic for TV, which is funny because years later in the 90s Spider-Man show, Daredevil showed up and he's wearing his, iconic costume with the horns and everything. So it was too demonic for the live action show, but not for the show aimed at kids that had a ton of censorship. So that's just funny. But anyway, that's where the black suit originated from. And then they put it in this as like a little reference to that, and then it ended up being used in the Netflix series. So that's how all that came about. But anyway, so he starts, making his way over to the warehouse, starts knocking out the henchmen, and then we end the issue right there. We pick up right where that leaves off. The cover of this one, we see the first, red and yellow Daredevil costume, where's he? The progress goes from black suit, red and yellow, full on red, which I was disappointed with in the Netflix series that he did not have the yellow suit. I understand why they didn't do that, because that probably wouldn't work as well in the dark Daredevil show.
Yeah.
For him to have the yellow suit, but I like the yellow suit. I want to see more of the yellow suit. But anyway, the reason though is because it wasn't popular when he originally had it, and people wrote in that they didn't like the way it looked in the early issues. So Stan Lee just said, "I'll make it red."
Which I can honestly see that.
Yeah, and there's interviews with him where he talks about it. He says that was as much thinking as he put into it. He's like, I'll just make it red. And then that's how it's been ever since. Except for the one time where it was all armored and red and black, and I don't know the context behind that. Again, I'm not a Daredevil expert. I just know there was a time period where he wore an armored red and black suit. But yeah, so he chases these guys down, these two guys on the pier down. He throws both of them into the water, and he pulls these grenades. He stabs a guy. It's mentioned here where the guy pulls a knife, and he says it gives it back to him, and it's very much implied here that he stabbed him. And then he pulls these grenades, and he kills both of them. He has murdered both of these guys. So yeah. Did I talk about earlier in this, the whole thing with Daredevil Killing? Because he's killed before. He did it in Born Again. He blew up a helicopter with a guy in it. He does it here. There's one time where he dropped Bullseye off a building, Well, not off a building. They're like hanging from like these electric wires that are way up in the air, and like he just drops him. And then so yeah, Daredevil he's not the Punisher. He doesn't like straight up just shoot him down, but like if push comes to shove, he'll do it. From what I've seen, again, I'm not an expert, but like the stuff I've seen, he's done it before. But yeah, he gets back up out of the water and he starts fighting all these guys in this one double page spread that you have to turn to the side in order to see properly. You got a few of those in the 90s. But yeah. So he's fighting them. He knocks all of them out, but then some more of them bust through the big door here with the truck.
Why?
Yeah, they're just gonna ram him with the truck. They're shooting at him with machine guns, and he dodges all of them. Kingpin's henchman grabs Mickey and takes her into a car, and so Matt goes to chase them down, but he gets grabbed by the police, and then he ends up busting out of the police car, and then he goes and chases them down. Which so the guy, he gets out of his car. He goes up to a taxi. He shoots the taxi driver. He steals the taxi. He drives it off to this abandoned building here, and Daredevil was able to keep up with him and found him and went in there. Anyway, this is a cool scene, though, because he walks in there, and he's all like, he keeps saying, "I don't want to kill you, let her go." So that's the thing I was talking about, where like he'll do it, but he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
He's not a Punisher type.
I really do like how he deflected it, though.
Yeah, that was cool. Like he's just shooting at him. He keeps deflecting him with a nightstick, and finally he deflects it one time, and it just goes straight between his eyes.
Which leads me to a question: do you think he meant to deflect it that way, or was that you?
I think because of his dialogue of "I don't want to kill you, let her go," and that implies to me it's like I don't want to, but I will if I have to. So I think he meant to deflect it right back at him. So yeah, he kills him, and then he saves Mickey, saves the kids. Kingpin now knows he has an enemy. So the implication here is that he's a Daredevil villain first instead of a Spider-Man villain first. So that doesn't match up with the continuity. Yeah. But yeah. So anyway, we got all that business is done, and Matt has decided he's going to stay in New York, and he's going to start a law firm with Foggy. And we see why the name is Nelson and Murdoch instead of Murdoch and Nelson when Matt's the main character, is because he lost a coin toss. So, and because when they did the coin toss, it went over, and Stick was sitting in he was sitting there next to them, and he's all like, yeah. It landed. He's like, it landed tails up. You came in second, so that's why they named it Nelson and Murdoch. So after that, we get the final little page here where he's like giving his narration about everything, and then we see that he's made his costume. And I like this little bit here where he jumps off the building, and you can see in the background that it starts out. It's the old costume, the yellow, and then it turns into the red suit. And there we go, big final double-page spread, heroic shot, another one of my favorite Daredevil images. So yeah, there it is, The Man Without Fear. So, final thoughts on it.
Again, enjoyed it a whole bunch, besides the fact, again, the art, but the art's still really good. And the characters and the development, different. Yeah. And I like the storyline with Mickey, but the one biggest gripe I have with it, besides the stalking stuff, which nobody would really question.
The stalking with Elektra.
Yeah. If they didn't think about it too much, is the fact of Kingpin had obvious reasons why you should hate him. And they just killed off this random guy who could have been the main villain, but that's not.
Oh, yeah, he's talking about the former crime boss. Yes. Yeah, who's not important at all. He's just there for 5 minutes.
But that's not what Daredevil's about, of course. The guy was never a villain. He's just like a side one-off character, whatever.
As far as we know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a reference to something else. I don't know. Again, not a Daredevil expert. Primarily, I've only read the Frank Miller stuff with, a few one-off issues here and there. But, yeah, I think that this was one of the first Daredevil comics I read. I think that it's a very good take on his origin. John Romita Jr., I like his artwork. Some things bother me, like how he draws kids, but I think that for the most part it's good. I don't think I mentioned this, but like his father worked on, his father, John Romita Sr., worked on Daredevil in the 60s. He did I don't remember how many, I think he did 6 issues, and then because Steve Ditko left Spider-Man, Stan Lee was like, hey, I need you to do Spider-Man now. So that's why he went to Spider-Man. But yeah, that's neat how John Jr. did Daredevil and Spider-Man like how his dad did. But yeah. The trade we're reading has a whole bunch of extras in the back too. Like we've got the original script for the book. It's also got omitted scenes. Did you look at those?
This?
No, right here. These are basically they're like deleted scenes, but in a comic. Where we see he was following Mickey's dad into a subway. Just little things like that, like little bits they just cut out. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, so that's the book. Also on the trade, just a random thing I wanted to point out, I realized as I flipped to the back, is that Kingpin has a yellow rose. It's a red rose in the book, but it's a yellow rose on the back of the trade. I don't know why. That's just weird. But yeah. So that's everything we had to say here. This is different. First time we're talking about something other than Spider-Man. Next week, or not next week, we don't have a regular schedule on these. Next week we'll be recording it, hopefully.
Saturday, so maybe we'll have it done next week sometime.
Hopefully. Maybe I'll have 2 comic conferences out in a row for the first time ever. But yeah, we'll be talking about Green Arrow next time, the Longbow Hunters, which is the stuff in this times 10. That's like an R-rated book. But yeah, so thank you all for watching. Hope to see you next time, and you have a good day.
Yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Tune in next time to see some dark stuff from Green Arrow.
Oh, boy.